first question about the constitution of Japan. Of course, yeah, there is a domestic debate going on in Japan whether Japan's constitution should be revised or could be revised. But of course, I see in the near future, in the event of LDP succeeding to remain in power for 4 years, or in the event of Shinzo Abe continuing to remain at the helm of affairs, already we have seen that there are many things that have happened which show that the Japanese Prime Minister is willing to take a stand on some issues. For example, for the first time in Japan's post-war history, they are now celebrating the day when the Allied forces left Japan and Japan regained its independence. So that day was celebrated recently. So we see that a more nationalistic government like the LDP may be prepared to do a rethink on Japan's constitution. Now, of course, when I was in Japan and interviewed academics and people in the government also, there is a debate. I'm not sure how successful it is, but they are aware of the need to revise Japan's post-war constitution. Then cooperation between India and Japan in the Indian Ocean, is there a difference between the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific? Yes, I would think so, because I think the Japan-India cooperation will work more effectively in the Indian Ocean region, because India is a major dominant naval power in the Indian Ocean region, not in the Western Pacific. So this would work, the cooperation between the two countries, in my opinion, would work better in the Indian Ocean region. And India is now acquiring another aircraft carrier, the Admiral Gorshkov, which should be in service by the end of this year or early next year. So then India will have two functional carriers in the Indian Ocean region, which means its power position capabilities are more. And of course, the United States would also not like to see India doing too much in the Western Pacific. Then implications of India-Japan cooperation in the South China Sea region, if that was the case, is of course India doesn't have any territorial stake in the South China Sea, but time and again, if we see the statements by the Indian Foreign Ministry, we see that India has emphasized the fact that all the disputes in the South China Sea should be settled according to the provisions of the UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. So China has not been very willing to do that. So by stressing the fact that all the disputes in the South China Sea should be settled according to the spirits of the UN UNCLOS, and by also stressing the importance of keeping the sea lanes of communication in the region open, I think India has signaled clearly that where its priorities lie in the region. Of course, but as I kept telling earlier, India has no territorial stake in the South China Sea. Then regarding the joint patrolling, I think the joint patrolling would have to be in an area which is infested with piracy. I'm thinking of the Straits of Malacca, for example. Because of course the piracy levels are down there, nothing compared to what is there off the coast of Somalia and other places. But of course there is a incidence of piracy in these areas, and the Straits of Malacca is a very narrow area. So, and this is the area through which the majority of the shipping going on to Japan passes. So coordinated patrolling would have to be held only in a piracy infested area. Otherwise, no country would like to see some other navy coming and engaging in coordinated patrolling in somebody else's territorial waters. And with regards to Indonesia, of course, yes, this is something very interesting. Indonesia has not been very willing to do that, but I think we have to remember the fact that the easternmost in the Indonesian islands, which is Aceh. Banda Aceh is only around 90 nautical miles from the southernmost portion of India, which is the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The southernmost point of India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands is known as the Indira Point. And from there, it's only 90 nautical miles to Banda Aceh. So India and Indonesia are actually closer than we think. And there are lots of issues at stake. For example, India imports natural gas from Indonesia. There are also commercial and other interests involved. So Indonesia, and we have to remember that India and Indonesia have been historically very close also. So all these factors work in the favor of India and Indonesia having coordinated patrols, and also because of India's strength in the anti-piracy operations. Then Indian companies engaging in oil exploration efforts in the coast of Vietnam, of course. But this is a purely commercial venture. Indian companies are investing in oil exploration and oil production all over the world, whether it be in Siberia, whether it be in Angola, whether it be in Niger, in Nigeria, in South Sudan, off the coast of Vietnam. It just happens to be in the South China Sea. But of course, I think this is a commercial venture. The fact that it is in a region which is has been in the news for all the wrong reasons, that of course has an implication, but the Indian government has time and again stressed that this is only a commercial venture by an Indian oil company, which is the oil and natural gas company. But of course, and Vietnam and this is in Vietnamese territorial waters. The problem happens because China says it is in an area which is Chinese territorial waters. So if there is any dispute, that dispute will have to be between Vietnam and China. The Indian companies have signed an agreement with Petro-Vietnam, which has given India the ONGC a lease for operating and exploring oil blocks off the coast of Vietnam. And China has raised objections to it, but India and Vietnam have gone ahead with the oil exploration efforts. So I think in the future, if the South China Sea issue, there are further changes on the ground situation, then India will have to see. But as of now, it has gone ahead with the oil exploration efforts in the South China Sea off the coast of Vietnam. But of course, there are many other things happening on the India-Vietnam front. India and Vietnam also, India is offering training to Vietnamese personnel also in maintaining the old Soviet era military hardware, because Vietnam also got a lot of old Soviet era hardware, and India even now has quite a lot of Russian made military hardware. So the cooperation also extends to other areas, not only in this front.